Alright, episode 73, and today we are talking about the Hamadryas baboon. Kind of surprised this is the first and currently only baboon species in the game, however, I was happily surprised when I actually looked into them. Currently only native to Eritrea, Djibouti, don't laugh, Ethiopia, Somalia, and Yemen, though they did most likely live all across the Red Sea coast and surrounding areas in the past. They, like most animals, have sexual dimorphism. Females are usually a reddish-brown and weigh somewhere around 22 to 33 pounds, and while males may somewhat look the same, they make a drastic change around the age of 10, when their hair becomes a silvery color and their face and ass become a bright red color. They also grow pretty much twice as large, at roughly 44 to 66 pounds. Now, this was the first baboon taxonomized, so they got first dibs on the scientific name. And Carl Linnaeus, a name that you may be well aware of if you study animals as much as me, decided to name it Papio Hamadryas. Now, Papio is nothing special, it's just the Greek word for baboon. Hamadryas, on the other hand, is actually very interesting. Most fans of fantasy media probably have heard of the fey creature known as the Dryad. If you don't, they are a female nature spirit, or fairy of plants essentially, and the Hamadryad is a dryad that was born partially or completely enveloped in a tree. This is why I brought up that they were the first taxonomized, because while they do climb trees, out of all the baboon species, they actually prefer to roost on cliffs rather than in trees. Unfortunately, when it comes to history, we get to play another game of where the fuck did you come from? Because, I'm not kidding, all I could find was that the oldest baboon fossil was found in South Africa, dates back roughly 2 million years ago, and the Hamadryas probably evolved roughly 350,000 years ago. Other than that, all our history knowledge comes from actual human records. On the upside, this is where I get to pad my runtime. I mean, fill the video with education. Most of the cultural influence comes from ancient Egypt, and it was very important to their religion. While we're all aware of the scarab, cat, and ibis, the baboon probably deserves a seat at this table as well. There are multiple deities associated with the animal. For instance, the attendant of Thoth, a god known as Astanu, was the one who actually kept track of the records of the weighing of the heart. This was a determining factor if a soul goes to paradise or receives eternal damnation. And after judgment, there is yet another baboon-based god to meet, and interactions vary based on your destination. If you go to hell, congrats! The chief of baboons, also known as Babi, would devour your entrails. And with teeth like a baboon, this will be very, very unpleasant. But, this being Egyptian mythology, shit is even weirder if you go to paradise. You see, Babi had a gift. A gift for the righteous. By his grace, you get to stay hard for eternity, motherfucker. And I don't mean strength. No. Apparently, he was also the god of the blue pill. And, once more, shit gets even more bizarre because he ferries the dead to paradise on his body. But of course, riding on his back would be ridiculous. You can't piggyback a baboon. So he used his body as a ship. And can you guess what made up the mast? That's right, his massive cock. And if this is surprising you, you obviously never looked into Egyptian mythology because they seem to love penises more than Bonnie Blue. Now, the sacred nature of this animal doesn't just sit in the afterlife. They were known as the Sacred Baboon, similar to the Sacred Scarab. They were believed to be messengers of the gods and were thought to even speak the secret language of Ra, the sun god. This is due to their habit of chattering in the early morning and using the sun to warm themselves in the early dawn. They were so revered that many tombs actually had mummified baboons alongside nobles and pharaohs. Now, unfortunately, they had been extinct in Egypt by the 16th century, and now only reside in the previously stated nations. Now, luckily, they are still least concerned, so while their population has decreased, it is currently pretty stable. And interestingly enough, however, there is an increasing overlap in Hamadryas and olive baboon territories, leading to viable hybrids, aka when they have babies in between species, they're still fertile and able to reproduce themselves. So who's really to say what the future means for the speakers of Ra? And the last piece of information I'd like to discuss is some of the social structures of the Hamadryas. They have a 4-tier hierarchy structure. Usually a group of Hamadryas is in a harem situation, though sometimes younger males will tag along and become essentially followers. 2 or more harems would also unite from time to time, usually with male familial ties. The dominance between the harem leaders usually is based on age, so fighting isn't that common. When harems come together, they can form clans, and 2 to 4 clans can come together to form bands. These bands can count up to 400 members, and usually is the only time that females will move between harems. Now, usually it's just from band to band, but there have also been accounts of females being, and I quote, traded. It's a monkey. They do weird things. And I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. But these bands can evolve even further into troops. And with groups of 1,000 or maybe even more, it makes sense that they were essentially a never-ending horde in Cabela's Dangerous Hunts 2013. That reference does not lead to anything, I just remember them in the game and didn't know where else to put it. So, anyway, with all that said and done, that is the end of the episode. I have no more information. So yes, I actually started this video before I realized the last DLC came out, so if it sounds a little weird, like consistency-wise, that's why. But if you did still enjoy the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Next episode, I believe, is the Highland Cow? I think? I hope? But yeah. Until next time, go outside, touch grass, hug your loved ones, drink water, and bye-bye.